Hello and welcome. It's January 27th, hard to believe it's already the 27th, 2015, and it's Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday! And on this episode, I'm going to continue taking a look at some of the pieces from Bernard Andrès' Ribambelle. And that was number 2. Last episode we looked at number 1. Today I'd like to talk about number 2. And this is a neat one because it gets the left hand doing more stuff. And of course, typically, it's the right hand that's playing the tune, right? And the left hand's just playing an accompaniment part. And so the right hand often gets a lot more of a workout. It's doing more stuff. And of course, more people are right-handed than left-handed, so for many people, the right hand is already more accomplished and more agile than the left hand, and it gets more of a workout, so it becomes even better, and etc., etc. Left hand also has to struggle with these bigger strings that are just physically harder to play and harder to avoid buzzing. And of course, so there's less fast stuff written for things down there when it is, not only is the left hand maybe not as practiced, but it's physically maybe a little bit more difficult. So all of that's just to say that it's great to have some pieces where the left hand feels like it's doing more stuff. And this is an example of a piece that's not particularly hard. These first two from Ribambelle are not that hard. Eventually by the end there are some harder pieces, but these are, they're nice pieces. They're not that hard, and this involves the left hand. So that's what we're going to focus on, which is why we've got this angle today. And I'm going to offer you 3 things to think about with this left hand. And first of all, of course, again, he doesn't have any specific fingering, so he's got these phrase markings to suggest we're going to connect throughout the phrase marking. So definitely write in some fingerings. I would suggest the 4-2-1 to start. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, etc. So the first thing is because of the nature of this piece, this is definitely a piece you could practice left hand alone, because the right hand's just doing these little chords, which we'll talk about in a moment. So first thing to think about is just the sound quality, the tone, right, of the left hand. Because here the left hand's playing the tune. And so just trying to, it can be fairly slow, but just trying to have that control to do exactly what you want. And what can be interesting is to try playing it with the right hand. And you might find, oh, I'm able to do kind of exactly what I want with my right hand. So now I'm going to try to match that in terms of sound quality and phrasing with the left hand, right? So just trying to get a really nice sound, that rich sound, a little pressure on the strings, even though it's not loud, it's reasonably soft. So thinking about that throughout, just the quality of the sound in the left hand. Then, as I say, the left hand is not that difficult. Probably, I think the most perhaps difficult part is that you're crossing under at one point. just wanted to talk about that. I'm actually going to zoom in, I think. Let's try zooming in. It's been a while since I got a chance to zoom in. All right. So I think that comes through, okay? So just this, crossing under, playing the thumb. And for me, it's funny because my left hand tends to be even lower than my left thumb, even lower than my right thumb. And you're wanting to maintain as much as possible that same hand position. So you can see how I'm not moving my hand that much. When you go to play the thumb, right, we need to get enough space to play that thumb. And for me, I'm doing a lot of wrapping of the thumb, right, rather than a big movement. The more that we have to torque the hand away to play the thumb, the further we have to get back into our playing position. So trying to, you can see there's a little bit of movement away, right? But mainly it's just the effect of that thumb closing. And then you have to think about shifting up, right? So we're down here, and the hand has to adjust, because if we're here, the hand is in a different place than if we're here, right? Here, right? Just that we're already kind of moving up towards ourselves a little bit, pulling the hand a little bit towards us, and then maybe a little bit more, and have that thumb, you go from here, whoop, up, and of course both the 2 and 1 going on at the same time. That's a spot to practice, and then you can. So I think technique-wise, that's the most difficult spot, and you can be aware of course, the patterns of what's happening. In that, we get starts the same, and here is where the pattern changes. We're going to place all 4 fingers, and just a quick finger note for me. The phrase marking would suggest that we would connect back to the A, whether it would be with 2 or 1. I'm coming off to let that A ring as long as possible, right? If I replace, it will get muffled. So I'm coming away, a little bit of a wrist action to come away from the string and then fall back down and play that. So just a little thing there. This middle section, I believe do the exact same thing, a third lower. Right, so just kind of being aware of those patterns. You learn those 2 bars in the middle section, and the next 2 bars are the same, just a third lower. And then when the right hand comes in, it's doing the same thing an octave higher, right, repeating those 2 bars. Final thing to think about with the left hand is, and I kind of touched upon it in talking about tone, but just the phrasing, right? So thinking about, it's not super fast, so we got time to think about where we're going and what we want to do with that. A little bit of a rise, a little bit of a fall, and just a nice sense of a long phrase, right? That we're saying something with this, that it's not just a bunch of random notes, that it's going from one to another. And a sense of holding back sometimes if you want, and moving forward, and just thinking about how you want to shape those phrases, these beautiful little 2-bar phrases, I guess, that consist of the piece. That's pretty much it in terms of the left hand. Let's just talk briefly about the right hand. 2 things to talk about in the right hand, and that is, first of all, let's zoom back out, I think. Whoa, excellent. Hello. Almost look at you above here too. The chords, these, we could try to break them. Typically we're breaking a chord so that the beat falls on the top note. In this case, given that the tune's on the bottom, if we go, it certainly is harder for us because we're used to starting a broken chord, you know, starting that with the left hand rather than going. I guess you could think of those first two notes as grace notes in the right hand, or maybe you do all of them. To me, I like the way it sounds if we just start. This note is the downbeat, and then these, it's like this is a big broken chord with a beat on the bottom. Let's see. Actually, right, I'm starting these notes together, so it's just like I'm starting the downbeat of the broken chord and the downbeat of the left hand at the same time. Anyway, it's something to play around with, right? Just these little interesting things there. And then you'll notice he's quite specific. And again, he's a harpist, right? So one imagines that he writes this first section, first 4 bars, broken chords, then they aren't broken. And it's easy to want to continue breaking them, but I think it's actually kind of nice to change that, right? When we get this middle section, so we've gone, you know, and then so thinking about that right hand sound quality, again, pressure on the strings to draw out a nice sound, but then not using all of that, right? Just so these little like bell-like ding, ding, ding sounds throughout that section. Anyway, just a few things to think about on this one. Again, I think it's a great piece to kind of get that left hand doing. It's not super difficult technically, but it's a chance for that left hand to try to sing, right? To try to good tone, thinking about phrasing, and really getting a chance to shine in a different way than it often has. So hope you enjoyed that. I'm not sure whether I got some other episodes I want to do, so I might do one more of these. Leave a comment, I guess, if there's a particular one of 3 through 8 that you would love to hear me talk about. I really like number 8. That's a nice one. They're all nice. So maybe next week we'll do one more of these, or maybe we'll move on to something new. So in any case, I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.